Shamar Arno flips to the Auburn Tigers.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first or second listen every single day, as this is a bonus happy hour edition of the show. We're dapping it up with Montgomery radio legend Darrell Dapprich. We'll talk about the future of what today's news means, but the biggest news, at least so far today, Shamar Arno, the four-star, according to Rivals, four-star cornerback commit, formerly of USC, flips to the Auburn Tigers. Darrell.
Good pickup. Obviously, much needed after Dante Core flips to Ole Miss. The timing of this makes it look like Auburn maybe knew Core was going to flip, and then Arno waited until Core flipped to Auburn. Just flippity flip, flip, flip. Here's the thing. Composite four-star. Core was a 0.87. Arno 0.89. So in theory, on paper, there's an improvement there in the class. But you know, that's subjective. Defensive back play. And you're one of those guys that really loves to focus in on corners and likes to look and break down things. But I look at offer lists. Obviously, USC was committed to Miami, Florida State, Nebraska, Tennessee, Georgia. And oh, by the way, Colorado all offered this kid. Now, you would think Deion Sanders knows a little bit about cornerbacks, right?
Sure.
He knows what it takes to be a high-level corner. They were very, very high on him. Wanted him to flip. He did not. He flips to Auburn. So,
well, and there's also the dynamic of Shamar Arno's recruitment has been tied to his teammate, plays at Carrollton, of course, Juju Lewis, the quarterback that Auburn was in the middle of the Juju Lewis frenzy. In fact, they were in the middle of it when Shamar Arno decided he was going to commit, and a lot of people thought he was going to commit to Auburn. And then USC kind of swept in the last moment, and it appears that they were doing some of that. I'm sure they thought he was a solid player, but a lot of it, I think, also had to do with their footing in keeping Juju Lewis. Now all the trends are, okay, Colorado is now the favorite to flip Juju Lewis. And Colorado, like you said, was interested in Shamar Arno. Auburn held all of them off. And to me, I think that is telling. I think that means that truly he wants to be here. And based off of, we've talked about how close his 2025 class is. They all seem genuinely happy that he's now a part of the crew.
Including Deuce Knight, who made a nice little tweet, said, WDE with the eagle head, was very excited about.
But he stormed the field, Darrell.
Exactly.
He stormed the field at Ole Miss.
When I go back to the storming the field story, I think about what Ryan Williams said on a show that he was getting ready to storm the field last year at Jordan-Hare before the 4th and 31. He was set up, ready to go, even though he knew he was going to Alabama or felt like he was going to commit to Alabama. So some of that stuff. But I will also, I want to make this point about him, is that about Arno, is when you talk about players being tied to certain players and that kind of thing, he was really, really tied to Florida State early on. I mean, all the crystal balls came in for Florida State. So going to USC was a little bit of a surprise and a little bit of an upset.
Sure.
The fact that some of these guys, Caleb Cunningham, Deuce Knight, kind of detach, Arno and Juju detach. A lot of times these package deals don't turn out to be that. So it's important to keep that in mind.
That's worth noting for sure. And this is the guy, just watching some of his tape over the last few days when kind of the rumblings were starting with all of this. He's athletic. He moves well. You can tell he's strong, and he likes to be physical at the line of scrimmage. I think that's kind of his strength, is those first 5 yards off of release. I do think he has room to improve as far as what he does in the play after that, but that's coaching. I mean, he's got the natural ability as far as his speed goes to cover up some things. But I do think coaching at the next level will help him take that next step. And so I'm excited to see that. You mentioned Arno. He's a 4-star according to Rivals. He's a 3-star everywhere else. You said he was a consensus or a composite 4-star. I hadn't seen that, so that's exciting. But I mean, he's got the tools. He's got the tools that you need. It's just, I don't know if he's a play day one type of corner.
Well, it's very rare in this day and age that you do find that as a freshman. Ken Lee was kind of a unicorn in that, and some other guys. I think Offord would be a guy that Jay Crawford, if Offord flipped to Auburn, I think he'd be a guy that could play
100%
day one. Nice size, Arno at 6'1", too. When you've got some rangy, lengthy corners, that's nice as well. You can't teach length, and so that's important.
Yep.
I don't think he has to play day one. That's the beauty.
That's kind of the beauty of it. Yeah. Right.
Just let him, and especially in the transfer portal era as well, that even expedites that. But let's just say Auburn didn't go out and get any portal cornerbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think he'd have to play day one.
Yeah, I don't know unless some people leave that we're not expecting them to. Like, I'm interested to see if they need to go get any corners in the portal. But one thing he said in an interview, I think it was with Rivals, he said early playing time was a factor that Auburn used to pitch. And you can see like his path to early playing time. I don't think that's shocking at all. When you look at the current state of the roster, I wonder what that workload looks like is my question. And it's impossible to know at this point, but I do think it's worth asking the question.
Yeah, early playing time, does that mean you get 10, 12 snaps a game? Early playing time could mean you get some snaps on special teams.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm just throwing out numbers. But if you get some on special teams as well, you're still playing. You're still on the field. I don't know if you want to burn a red shirt for somebody that was just doing special teams, but we'll see. I mean, again, I think all this is contingent upon who stays, who leaves, who Auburn gets in the portal. I mean, it's so much harder to project and forecast playing time for freshmen now because there's so many other factors.
Yeah. So what does this addition mean to Auburn's class? It actually made a larger impact than I thought it would. And I want to talk about that in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, Auburn is a 23.5-point favorite on Saturday against ULM, according to our friends at FanDuel. Darrell, how are we feeling about that? Oh, it's back up to 24. It started at 24.5, dropped down to 23. It's back up to 24.5.
I think that there's going to be a little backdoor touchdown scored there that might get that number under 24 barely.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. 24 is a lot of points where this offense has been playing. So if you feel confident one way or the other, or just want to check out any of the other lines over at FanDuel, you can head over there, FanDuel.com. New customers right now, you can bet $5. You get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place bets on live sports. This is FanDuel.com to join today. And once again, $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins at FanDuel.com. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at GameTime. GameTime is the best place to buy tickets. Darrell, you've used it. I've used it. It is so easy. It doesn't matter if it's for sports, theater, comedy, concert. GameTime has you covered.
Well, I have a personal challenge that I'm going to do is that I have hit the trifecta. I have used it for a comedy show, a concert, and a sporting event. And before the end of this year, I am going to complete the clean sweep, and I'm going to buy tickets to the theater, say, so that I can say I've used them for all of it.
You've done it all. Hey, you can do it all as well. Game Time. Download the free app today in your phone's app store and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
Game time. Let's go. Shamar Arno commits to Auburn as part of the 2025 class. So what does this mean? Well, the Rivals has him ranked the highest. And so now, according to Rivals, with the addition of Arno, Auburn jumps Alabama and LSU to become the number 3 recruiting class in the 2025 class. According to Rivals, they trail only Ohio State and Georgia. And it's just fascinating. Like when you look at these top 10 teams, with the exception of Oklahoma, so you got Ohio State, Georgia, Auburn, LSU, Bama, Texas, Miami, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. It's like all of those teams, with the exception of Auburn and Oklahoma, are like legit, like threats to make the playoffs, and you got Auburn there, the number 3 class.
LSU no longer, by losing to Alabama, that was an elimination game.
Sure,
but still could win 8 or 9 games. Which is,
they've got a path to it, but they need some help for sure.
I think it's ironic that a kid named Arno helps Auburn leapfrog LSU in rankings. There's something about that that's just really, really ironic to me. So there you go. It'd be like if Auburn signed a kid named O'Reilly, and then we jumped Notre Dame in the rankings, right? That's what it's on par to. So, great. That's just, it shocks me that Auburn moved that much. It really is. I mean, there's just a slight edge, like I said, from a ranking standpoint over core.
Yeah.
But to jump that much, it's really surprised me.
And I'm surprised that Auburn is 3rd on Rivals when they don't have a 5-star according to Rivals. Like Autry's not a 5-star on Rivals. Deuce isn't a 5-star on Rivals. Smith isn't a 5-star on Rivals. So that's a little interesting.
It is interesting. That really is. That is a definite mystery.
Yeah. 21 4-stars though. That goes a long way. And once again, it's just incredible to me when you look at what's happening on the field versus what's happening on.
I hate to play the what if game, and it's hard for it not to creep into my mind, and I shouldn't allow that to happen. I just keep thinking to myself, if Auburn was like at 7-2 right now, what if? Would there be a path to the number 1 class in the nation?
Well, I mean, if you get offered, and in that situation, I think Auburn has already flipped from Ohio State, and that would hurt Ohio State and it would help you.
Yeah.
And so it gets you close.
I just can't think of anybody else out there that Auburn lost. Maybe Babola or whatever his name was.
Yeah,
maybe
Babalola. Yeah.
Babalola or someone like that. But for most parts, like their targets have been acquired.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that's obviously the big one though, is Naheem offered. So we'll see. And depending on who you talk to, that one's not over yet. So we'll see. But yeah, to stay on topic with Shamar, I think the upside for this guy, like he's got all the pieces or everything that you want as far as size, as far as frame. Like he could honestly be a guy that you match up against maybe a larger receiver that's kind of game plan specific down the road if they want to beef him up a little bit. Cause I think he's got the frame to carry more weight, assuming he's not going to drop any in speed. And he looks great. So we'll see. We'll certainly see how they use him, but the context here, I mean, if he's replacing core, you're talking about the 5th or 6th defensive back in this class. And it's like, you're telling me he's the 5th or 6th DB in this class? It's like, yeah.
Well, what that also means, and when you talk about DBs in this class, keep in mind now Donovan Starr was scheduled to go to Georgia. He's canceled that visit. It is not going to Georgia now. So that helps in this whole rankings. And DBU, man, DBU. It's really turning out to be that way.
Yeah. I mean, you got to think them watching Kayan Lee and Jay Crawford and Caleb Harris, like you got to think that played a factor with getting these guys.
And then, the guys that moved on last year, 3 of them that were really highly touted. Sure. I know that they're not playing in the league, but still they went to the Senior Bowl and they were really got a lot of recognition in Pritchett, Simpson, and DJ James. So I think all that helps. All that helps.
I agree with you. So all in all, great addition to the 2025 class for the Auburn Tigers. Congrats to Shamar Arno from flipping from USC to the Auburn Tigers. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dapp, and then I'm with you Wednesdays, Fridays, live basketball shows, and then reaction shows to Auburn football that drops on Sunday.
Yep, absolutely. Be sure to check it out. Like the video, please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.